Do you like huge, muscular, buff men in full plate armor? Or cute, blonde cleric girls with insanely over-detailed jiggle physics? Or even better, do you like archers named Rolf who are actually good units? Then you need to play Fire Unicorn Overlord. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mangs, and over the years there have been many games that have tried to scratch that Fire Emblem itch without actually being Fire Emblem. Some games have come close, but there's always been that little special something missing for my neuron activation to really kick in. But as I played through the demo of Unicorn Overlord, those long dormant dopamine receptors started kicking in. I experienced something that I haven't felt in a long time. The pure joy of a well-executed strategy game. Unicorn Overlord is the latest game from vanillaware. A free demo just released to the public, and it allows you to play the game for up to 8 hours, which is pretty extraordinary considering most other demos don't even come close to this. Usually, they limit you to the beginning stretches of the game where they put in the most amount of effort and resources. The fact that vanillaware just lets you play the game for this amount of time shows a level of confidence from the developers that we don't see a lot of these days. The devs are proud of this game, and rightfully so. They aren't ashamed of what you might find 6 to 7 hours into your playthrough, and that alone should be a stamp of approval. I will be honest though, one of the things that made me hesitant to try this game was its name, Unicorn Overlord. It just sounds dumb, and while the title makes thematic sense, I really just wish they'd go for something else. I'd take something like Dragon Overlord any day, even though it sounds a lot more generic, but hey, this is what we got, might as well make it work. Now, once you get over the hurdle of the insanely stupid name, this game will very quickly hook you in. I think the opening tutorial of this game is one of the best I have ever seen. It doesn't bombard you with dialogue or instructions, it teaches you just enough to grasp the basic fundamentals of the game. If I have a criticism of the prologue, it is that some of the first combat sequences you encounter can drag on for a little too long, but I also think it's cool that the game shows you what high-level combat looks like out of the gates, and it does sort of set a scope that you can measure your own progress up to when you start fighting with your own low-level scrubs. This game is basically telling you, this is how combat will look like when you're higher level, and that's kinda cool. As a Fire Emblem player, it is impossible to miss the obvious references Unicorn Overlord makes to the franchise. While this game doesn't play like Fire Emblem at all, it sure as hell feels like it was made by Fire Emblem fans. The story sees the young Prince Elaine escaping a besieged town alongside his retainer and protector Joseph, who then flees to a nearby island to race him away from the evil empire, who is currently taking over the world. This is a plot that most Fire Emblem fans should be pretty familiar with. It's essentially Marth and Leaf's story from Fire Emblem 1 and 5. But here's the deal. I don't really care about originality as long as the game is solid and presents itself well. Hell, you can rehash the Dark Dragon is taking over the world plotline for all I care. All I want is a good game that feels fun to play, with beautifully designed characters and a banging OST, and that's exactly what Unicorn Overlord delivers on. Just look at how beautiful the intro cutscene of this game is. The lightning effects of this game alone are out of this world. I have always been a huge proponent for how beautiful 2D sprite-based games can look, and the fact that modern Fire Emblem still hasn't tried to adopt this style is absolutely beyond me. The gameplay of Unicorn Overlord is, as I said, very different from Fire Emblem, but it still falls into the same ballpark and scratches the same itch that Fire Emblem does. At least, that's how I feel. This game is not turn-based in the traditional sense, but it features an overland map where units move in real time. And when two units come into contact with each other, you get a battle sequence which you don't control directly, but you do control everything leading up to it, from how you put your units into formation, to what items you equip them with, and the amount of customizations you can do with this alone is absolutely crazy. If you lose a battle in this game, it's because you didn't prepare properly for it. There is always a strategy that ensures you will come out on top. At its core, Unicorn Overlord is a game about building squads and putting them up in formations, and having them go up against other squads, which will try to counter your formations. This is my second time encountering such a battle system. The first one was actually an indie game called Nephilim Saga Symphony of War, which I streamed on my channel a little while back together with Clockinator. but I also know where this game is inspired from. Yes, you can stop telling me about it now, guys. I only get like 100 comments about it every day. Anyway, back to Unicorn Overlord. One thing I absolutely adore about this game is how well it does resource management. Limited resources on the battlefield is what I live for. You get a limited amount of Valor points which you can use to deploy units and perform special skills, and you earn these Valor points by scoring victories on the battlefield. And how you know this is a good resource is that you always want more of it. When I play, I always wish I had more Valor points, and I always look for ways to get more of them, and that is resource management done right. You also have a lot of consumables that you can use, which can buff your units in different ways, but regardless of the amount of them you've hoarded before a battle, you only get to use 10 items during a single one, which means that it becomes a lot more about how and when you use them as opposed to how many you're willing to burn through. Another amazing aspect about this game is that you're always on a timer for each battle, and if it runs out, you just get a game over. This means you can't just turtle your way to victory or farm endlessly spawning reinforcements. You need to push forward, take too long, and you will lose. Your units also have Tracia-style stamina, which depletes when they fight, forcing you to make use of your entire army and not just bulldoze your way through with one power squad. Some people are not big fans of these limitations, but for me, this is the bread and butter of what strategy games are all about. Limited resources makes decisions feel meaningful. They make you consider each and every option you have at your disposal. I thought I enjoyed Fire Emblem because of its permadeath mechanic, but I've actually come to realize that what I actually love about it, at least the older games, is the resource management. And that's something Unicorn Overlord does masterfully. It doesn't even have permadeath, units just get knocked out when they go down to 0 HP. But losing a unit is still a big deal and something you want to avoid, since you'll most likely be needing all of them to complete some of the scarier missions. But if you happen to lose a few units towards the very end of the map, you will probably get away with it. It's not like you have to restart the whole damn thing. Now, that being said, there does seem to be ways to grind skirmishes in this game, meaning you can technically farm experience, but in the demo version you can only do 5 optional battles, and I have no idea if they're going to unshackle this limitation in the main game or not. A part of me hopes they won't, or at the very least that there will be some limitations on this grinding on the higher difficulties, but that remains to be seen. Now, speaking of difficulty, there is one big worry I have about the final game, and that is that it might end up being a little too easy. When I played the game, I was encouraged by my chat to pick Expert difficulty, which is the highest one available in the demo. I thought this was going to be absolutely brutal, and it was tough at times. I had to restart a few battles, but generally speaking I was able to make my way through them, and I am well aware of how little I optimized my squads during my initial playthrough. I even forgot to equip some of my units with the weapons I found. For this reason, I do hope that when the full game comes out, there will be a 4th higher difficulty unlocked when you beat the game, or maybe one that's made available through DLC, because I can see the potential of min-maxing your squads and how much powerful it's going to make you. If you play this game optimally, I imagine you can just bulldoze the higher difficulty, and that may make some people a little bored. If I have any other criticisms towards this game, aside from its silly name, it's how the unicorn ring is used as a bit of a MacGuffin and plot device. The main bad guy in this game is all about mind controlling people, and while that is a good way to explain the enemy's motivation for fighting you, it does make for a very predictable plot. Us running around and using the unicorn ring to dispel the bad guy's mind control is a great way to ensure that we can constantly recruit the enemies we defeat into our army. But it also, as I said, just makes the plot incredibly predictable. I can tell you guys with a 100% certainty, without knowing what lies ahead, that the mom we get to control at the start of the game is going to be a future boss. The plot just kinda writes itself. Now, a simple, predictable story isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it does mean that I don't think there will be any huge surprises coming our way. But as I said at the beginning of this video, this doesn't have to be bad. If the game is beautifully presented and fun to play, even a generic story can leave a good impact. There has been some controversy regarding the localization of this game and how it takes some pretty big liberties. Here are some of the screenshots showing the actual translated dialogues versus what the localizers decided to do. This is an issue which probably warrants an entire video on its own. I think a lot of modern games have had their quality drastically decreased by poor localizations. I know Engage and Fates certainly did. However, playing through the game, I didn't find the dialogue egregiously bad. There were some parts of it that felt a little robotic, and sometimes the people didn't speak like real humans, but it was nowhere near as bad as some people make it out to be. Maybe if I saw the full extent of the original script, I would disagree, but for now, my consensus is that this is not something which will ruin your enjoyment of Unicorn Overlord, though we'll have to see if I'm truly right or not when the full game comes out. In case I didn't make myself clear, this game is an absolute gem, and I will 100% play through the full game on this channel when it comes out on March the 8th. In fact, I've already pre-ordered it, because I think this is one of those games that are gonna get better and better as time passes, as word of mouth will spread and more people will start checking the game out because of its positive reviews. And I hope that this video inspired at least a few of you to go and try out the demo for yourself. If you have the ability to get it, there's really zero reason not to check it out. And if you are one of those people who were on the fence about this game, but after watching this video you decided to go try it out for yourself, I would love to hear about it in a comment below. It's always nice to hear that my videos can actually make a difference for people. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching. My name is mangsmemes, and I'll see you again real soon. Bye bye.